Take a look at Maslow's hierarchy. Once our physiological needs for shelter, for food, for water is met, the most primary human need is the need for security. Not just physical security, but emotional security. Now, if beliefs are lies, why do we get so attached to them? I think the answer at some point is because they have so much validity to us because we depend on them for a sense of who we are. We are a product of where we work, of what our faith is, who we're with. Once we attach our identity to something, that something becomes a foundation, good or bad, that we stand on. It gives us a sense of meaning, it gives us a sense of significance, it gives us a sense of importance, and if that's violated, even if carrying out those beliefs causes pain or harm, nothing is more painful than the loss of certainty. There's a story that in Florence, Italy, 1503, Cosimo Medici commissioned Michael Angelo to create the David. Now, in the basement of a church in Florence was a huge piece of marble that had been worked on by a few much less talented sculptors than Michelangelo. And they discarded it. They said that the marble was too brittle. It was too finicky. It was nearly unworkable. Sort of how a lot of our clients see themselves as they graduate, disappointment after disappointment to what Dr. Martin Seligman called learned helplessness. But the mayor of Florence was determined to take this very expensive piece of marble and do something with it. And he also wanted a Floridian to get the commission, because to him, he considered himself kind of an art connoisseur. He wanted the prestige of having the David created in Florence, so he was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. So he said, why don't we bring Michelangelo here to take a look at it and just see if he can do anything with this marble? And the sculptors, the last sculptor who worked with it, screwed up so badly, he bore a hole right through the center of the David, or of the marble, what would later become the David. So Michelangelo stands there and he's looking at this damaged piece of marble, and it's reported that something amazing happened. When he looked at the marble, he had a vision. He saw the David trapped inside the marble. And he told them instantly, and everyone was extremely excited that he could work with it. The image of the David he saw was one where he would be positioned around the hole in the marble. It would be inconsequential. So he took the marble to his studio and began to sand it and refine it and carve out the rough outline for years. And for years more, he worked on sanding and polishing it until it was a masterpiece. And one day, the mayor of Florence went to go see Michelangelo to inspect this near-finished product. And when he walked in, he commented that it was all wrong. The nose was too big, and it was out of proportion with the rest of the body. Well, the problem was the mayor was standing all the way down here, and the David was so tall that his perspective gave the illusion that the nose was far too large for the face. Now imagine this. Here's the greatest sculptor of his time, probably of all of human history, being told by the mayor of Florence, I think I can improve your work. How many of you would be just a little bit tempted to tell him to piss off? But Michelangelo understood something. He understood a little bit about human nature and the law of reactance, and how people respond when they're invalidated. So he looked at the nose and said, you know what, I think you're correct. So as he's walking up the scaffold, he grabbed the hammer and chisel, and he just took dust from the statue onto his fingers. He walked up to the highest level of the scaffold and pretended to chisel at the nose, just hitting it hard enough to make the sound of a chisel and hammer hitting against marble, and he allowed some of the dust to fall from his fingers, giving the illusion that he was reworking the nose. And he told the mayor, come around here, come up here so you can get a better look at it. He was actually just giving him the correct perspective. When the mayor looked at it, he said, it's magnificent. And when the David was finally unveiled at the Palazzo della Signora, people gasped. It was the most beautiful thing they ever saw. And Michelangelo reminded them that he did not create the David. He simply saw a vision of the David trapped inside the marble, and his job was to remove everything That was not the David. But what he also conceded to was it was not just him, but the perfection, the detail that brought it so to life was due to the insight of the mayor, and the mayor forged such a strong relationship with Michelangelo. He received many commissions from him thereafter, because for him it was more important to be effective than it was to be right. He was able to mitigate his ego, and that forged an amazing relationship and inspired people for centuries. And I guess the first takeaway there is the second we are able to see our clients not as they are, but as who and what they're ultimately capable of becoming a masterpiece, and by never invalidating them and understanding a little bit about their brain and why we have to be so careful in how we engage, but so tenacious about engaging them and forging a relationship that creates a foundation of security from which open and honest communication can ensue. If we understand that, they'll allow us to be the hammer and chisel and follow our guidance towards becoming the masterpiece that they were engineered to be. That even if they couldn't see it themselves, our job is to just help them go as far as they can see, because when they get there, they'll see further.